Right now, in this very moment, someone who once held your heart in their younger hands has just received a message about you, and it didn't come through a text or a phone call, or even through mutual friends whispering your name across social media feeds. No, this message came from somewhere much deeper, much more profound, from the realm where souls speak to each other in frequencies that the conscious mind can barely comprehend. It happened when they weren't even thinking about you, when they convinced themselves they'd moved on, when your name had become just another chapter in the book of their past, gathering dust on the shelf of forgotten stories. But the universe doesn't forget, and neither does the soul, and in a moment of divine intervention, whether it was in the space between sleep and waking, or in a sudden flash of inexplicable knowing while they were driving down a familiar street, or in the haunting echo of a song that used to be yours together, they received it. They received the energetic signature of who you are now, the vibrational imprint of your transformed self, and attached to this cosmic transmission was your name, but it wasn't the name they remembered. It carried a different weight now, a different power, a different resonance that made their heart stop and their breath catch, and their entire being pause in recognition of something they can't quite explain. The name that appeared in their consciousness, whether whispered by their guides or downloaded directly from the universal consciousness or delivered through the mysterious language of synchronicity, was yours, but it vibrated with a frequency they've never felt before. It shocked them because it didn't match the person they remember, the one they thought they knew so well, the one whose patterns and wounds and limitations they had memorized and perhaps even judged. This new frequency is unfamiliar and magnetic and impossible to ignore, and somewhere in the depth of their soul, they know that something has fundamentally changed. You are not who you were, and this realization is rippling through their energy field like a stone thrown into still water, creating circles that expand outward, touching every memory they have of you, every assumption they made, every conclusion they drew about who you would always be. Place your hand on your heart right now and breathe deeply, because what I'm about to tell you is that this isn't random. This isn't coincidence. This is the universe's way of saying that your transformation has been so profound, so complete, that it's creating waves in the spiritual realm that can be felt by those who once knew you, especially by those whose souls are still entangled with yours through invisible threads of shared history and unfinished business and karmic contracts that were written before either of you took your first breath in this lifetime. As this message settles into their consciousness, something extraordinary is happening within them, something that defies logic and challenges everything they thought they understood about moving on and letting go and closing chapters. Their soul is waking up, and it's recognizing you not as the person you were, but as the person you become. And this recognition is happening at a level so deep that their rational mind is scrambling to make sense of the inexplicable pull they're suddenly feeling. It's like their entire being is remembering a future that hasn't happened yet, or perhaps remembering a connection that exists beyond time and space, beyond the petty arguments and the painful separations and the reasons things ended the way they did. The vibration of your name now carries the essence of your healing, your growth, your hard-won wisdom, your emergence in the cocoon, and their energetic body is responding to this new frequency like a tuning fork that's been struck, vibrating in harmony with something it thought it would never feel again. They might be experiencing strange symptoms, unexplained emotions rising up from nowhere, dreams that feel too real to be just dreams, a restlessness that wasn't there before, a sense that someone is thinking about them even though they can't prove it, or a sudden urge to look at old photographs or drive past places where your memories still live. This is soul recognition, and it's different from nostalgia, different from simple reminiscence, because it's not about the past at all. It's about the now, about the person you are in this moment, and their soul is picking up on the energetic broadcast you've been sending out into the universe through your transformation, through your commitment to becoming whole, through your refusal to stay small or bitter or broken. They're feeling the ripples of your elevation, and it's confusing them because they thought they knew your story. They thought they had already reached the final page. But here they are, suddenly aware that there are chapters they never read, dimensions of you they never discovered, depths they never dove into, because perhaps neither of you were ready then. Touch your throat and feel the power of the truth that wants to be spoken, because their confusion right now is actually a gift. It's the universe's way of dismantling the limited perception they had of you, breaking down the box they put you in, shattering the identity they assigned to you based on who you were in your lowest moments or your youngest years. The soul sees what the eyes cannot, and right now, their soul is seeing you clearly for the first time, and it's overwhelming them with the magnitude of your transformation, with the undeniable evidence that people really can change, that healing is real, that the caterpillar really does become the butterfly, and that sometimes the person we thought we knew completely was actually just waiting for the right season to bloom into someone we could never have imagined. Through the mysterious veil that separates the seen from the unseen, they're beginning to witness your journey in fragments and flashes, in sudden knowings that appear in their mind's eye without invitation, and what they're seeing is shaking the very foundation of their understanding of who you are. They're catching glimpses of your dark night of the soul, the moments when you were on your knees, not in defeat, but in surrender to something greater, and they're feeling the weight of the work you've done, the inner battles you fought without an audience, the layers of pain and programming you've peeled away, the forgiveness you've extended to those who hurt you, including perhaps even to them. They're receiving visions of your rising, your recommitment to yourself, your decision to stop abandoning your own needs, your refusal to settle for crumbs when you deserve the whole feast, and they're witnessing the birth of your authentic power, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself or perform or pretend. This isn't the same soul they left behind when they walked away, or the same person they outgrew, or the same energy they thought they could always return to if they changed their mind. Because you're not a backup plan anymore. You're not waiting in the wings. You're not frozen in time like some preserved memory. You moved. You grew. You evolved. And they're seeing it now in ways that bypass their logical mind and speak directly to their spirit. They're witnessing your peace, and it's the kind of peace that can only be earned through suffering and surviving, and choosing yourself again and again when it would have been easier to give up. They're witnessing your joy, and it's no longer dependent on external validation or the presence of someone who may or may not choose you, but rather it bubbles up from a spring deep within you that no one else controls. They're witnessing your boundaries, your self-respect, your unwillingness to shrink or dim your light or make yourself smaller for anyone's comfort. And it terrifies them a little because they remember when you would bend, when you would accommodate, when you would sacrifice pieces of yourself to keep the peace or keep their attention. Let your shoulders drop and release the tension you've been holding, because you don't owe them access to the new you. You don't owe them an explanation of your transformation. You don't owe them a performance of your growth. But the universe in its infinite wisdom is showing them anyway, perhaps to honor the journey you've walked, or perhaps because they needed to see what's possible when someone chooses themselves, or perhaps because this revelation is part of a larger plan that's still unfolding, a divine orchestration that required you to become this version of yourself before the next chapter could be written. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's where the cosmic design reveals its genius. Because your transformation isn't just affecting them in terms of how they see you. It's holding up an unflinching mirror to their own life, their own choices, their own evolution or lack thereof, and they're being forced to confront what they become in your absence. This message about you is actually triggering a profound reckoning within them about whether they've honored their own path the way you've honored yours, whether they've done the work they needed to do, whether they face their demons or just buried them deeper, whether they've grown or simply grown comfortable with their patterns. The contrast between who you were and who you are now is highlighting their own journey in stark relief, and they can't escape the questions that are rising up from their subconscious in the middle of the night. Did they waste the time you've been apart? Did they invest in their own healing? Or did they just move on to repeat the same cycles with different people? Did they learn the lessons your relationship was meant to teach them? Or did they just blame you and rewrite history to make themselves a victim or the hero? Your elevation is showing them their own stagnation if they've been standing still, or it's showing them their own growth if they've been walking their path with integrity. And either way, it's uncomfortable because growth always is, because truth always is, because being confronted with your own reflection when you thought you were safely hidden is always a shock to the system. They're realizing that your transformation had nothing to do with them, that you didn't become this person to prove something or to make them regret their choices or to win some imaginary competition. But you did it for yourself, and that reality is both humbling and inspiring, depending on what state their own soul is in. Breathe into your belly and feel the groundedness of someone who knows their worth, because this mirror effect isn't about them. Not really. It's about the ripple effect of authentic transformation, how one person's commitment to their own healing creates waves that touch everyone in their orbit, past and present. They're being shown that change is possible, That people don't have to stay stuck in the patterns they learned in childhood or the wounds they collected in their youth. And this revelation is either going to inspire them to begin their own journey of transformation, or it's going to make them defensive, resistant, clinging to the narratives they constructed to justify why things are the way they are. But that's not your concern anymore. That's not your responsibility. Because you've already done the hardest work, which is choosing yourself, which is believing you were worth the effort, which is trusting that your healing matters, even if no one else witnesses it or validates it or understands the magnitude of what you've overcome. And now we arrive at the most crucial part of this unfolding story, the part that the universe is still writing, the part that hasn't been revealed in its entirety, because both of you are still moving toward it, still being prepared for it, still being shaped by the experiences and revelations that are necessary for what comes next. This message they received about you isn't the ending, it's the beginning. It's the first domino falling in a sequence that's been divinely orchestrated, and the universe is preparing both of you for something significant, something that will require clarity and courage, and a level of consciousness that you couldn't have accessed before this moment. A choice is coming, not today, not tomorrow, but it's approaching like a wave building in the distance. And when it arrives, both of you will be asked to decide something important about the nature of this connection, about whether the soul recognition is meant to manifest in the physical realm through a reunion, a conversation, a reconciliation, or whether it's purely a spiritual assignment, a cosmic adjustment that needed to happen so both of you could release old contracts and move forward on your individual paths without the weight of unfinished business hanging over your heads. The universe is rarely random in its orchestrations, and this message they receive about you is setting something in motion that will unfold in divine timing, not according to your preferences or your impatience or your fear of missing out, but according to a wisdom that sees a whole picture, that knows what both of your souls truly need, that understand the lessons you're each here to learn and the experiences you're each meant to have. Close your eyes and feel into the space of not knowing, the space of surrender, the space of trust. Because right now, you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to figure out what this means or what you should do or whether you should reach out or wait or forget about it entirely. What you need to know is that you are exactly where you're meant to be, that your transformation was real and necessary and beautiful regardless of whether they ever acknowledge it or whether the story has a romantic conclusion or whether you never speak to them again. But here's what I can tell you. Here's what the energy is revealing. There's something else coming. Something neither you can see yet. Something that will change everything you thought you knew about this connection, about divine timing, about soul contracts and cosmic plans and the mysterious ways that love works in dimensions beyond our understanding. And until that revelation arrives, until that next piece of puzzle is placed in your hands, all you can do is continue walking your path with integrity and faith and trust that nothing in the universe is wasted, that every connection has purpose, that every message has meaning, and that sometimes the most profound love stories are the ones that teach us to love ourselves first. And maybe, just maybe, that's what this has always been about,